Hello and welcome back to Gooders Front Room for some more Prime Cutz. And this time around we have 2009's Spirit Camp. It's pretty much an attempt to meld Mean Girls to some extent with your typical kind of slasher affair. Our cold open is on this gang of horny teenagers who are on some kind of cheerleading summer camp. With this girl making the eyes at one of the lads, and she drags him off into the woods. It is a little bit of a play around the usual convention here, as she is the aggressive one sexually, but he turns her down. He runs away first, and then she goes into the woods only to find, of course, his body and a horrible killer in the woods. And she stumbles back, almost making it back to her friends, but of course she doesn't get there. And here are our two of our main characters for the rest of the film as they prepare to go on a training camp for their cheerleading a couple of years later. This is one of our other leads and her boyfriend. She is talking about how much she is going to miss her boyfriend while she's at camp. Her little sister effectively extorts her to tell or to keep quiet that she's had the boyfriend in her room, and pile into the minivan, and it's time to head off to camp. And here we have our final main character, who is somewhat of an outsider. She's the kind of gothy girl. She has a kind of past that's hinted at. She's been in trouble with the law. And at the camp we have the counsellors, one of whom is the stereotypical camp male cheerleader. And every good horror movie needs its sequence with the creepy locals at the local creepy gas station, and the one handsome man, who of course all the girls immediately start trying to flirt with. And after some jokes around the bathroom, everybody's off. And this is going to be a plot point for the film, but there is a patch of mud that apparently is impassable to vehicles. That seems somewhat inconsistent, but it is an attempt to isolate the characters at the camp. And then cut to the last girl approaching the camp, her mother having made her late. They're told by the handsome chap that they can't get down the road, even though it's quite passable. So the girl decides to walk off herself, having fallen out with her mother. And then of course we get some horror movie action. Cut to the rest of the girls kind of settling in, talking about rumours about the camp. Nobody believes them, of course. And here we have our small town sheriff. We get a bit of a show of him having a tough time getting past that small puddle, but he makes it and finds the kitch bag of the girl that has been killed earlier. And for some reason we see him smelling and taking a pair of her underwear. He goes to speak to what appears to be the camp's founder, the camp's leader, and then the movie cuts to what it thinks you're looking for in a movie about cheerleaders being murdered, and that's cheerleaders in small bikinis. This is the groundskeeper. He's a bit strange, This girl has an issue with heights, although it's not really relevant at all later on. This girl goes off by herself and becomes the next one to meet an unfortunate end. And it's heavily implied that the groundskeeper is somebody you don't want to be around. Then the camp leader pulls out Chekhov's shotgun. Of course, the shotgun will come into play later. We get some more of the girls kind of hanging out for, well, reasons in their skimpies. This girl has been revealing some more about her past. The boyfriend turns up, although somehow he does appear to have made it past the giant mud puddle. The counsellor gets angry that the girls have been drinking, and the couple go to enjoy themselves, but the boyfriend goes back towards his car to look for a condom, but of course encounters the killer. Poses as the boyfriend, and that's another one down. Our three remaining girls decide to go find out where everybody is. They find blood on the floor, and then checking the boyfriend's car, they find the boyfriend. He's still alive, but the car has been disabled, so they go looking for the counsellors. Of course, the shotgun is found, but it turns out the counsellor is also dead at this point. They then capture this man, who they think is responsible. He's quite creepy, but he is actually innocent. But Pigtails does not believe him. He does, however, manage to escape as the power goes out, and the girls start to flee. Arguing about what to do next, one of them decides to swim across the lake next to the camp to the male cheerleaders camp on the other side of the lake. Of course, she doesn't make it, so that leaves us down to 2. And the girls bicker, as I say, in a sort of slightly Mean Girls-esque way, but the humour doesn't quite pay off. The writing isn't quite strong enough to carry the idea. They find the classic horror staple of the kind of abandoned shack with all sorts of things inside. And we're down to our final contestant, so to speak. She battles the killer and makes a run for it, but eventually he does almost catch up with her, and then she encounters the sheriff, and he is convinced he knows who the killer is, as a figure that he already blames for the killings 2 years ago. He goes into the cabin to investigate what's going on. Meanwhile, she has found the pair of underwear in the sheriff's car, and so thinks that he is suspicious, as you would. So she holds him with the shotgun, but he does get the better of her and put her into the back of his car. And whilst the sheriff is off being killed himself, she manages to escape. And we're into some classic run from the killer territory as she discovers the unfortunate bodies of the others. The killer does actually manage to capture her and knock her out and tie her up. There is a somewhat uncomfortable kind of sexual element to it before she manages to escape, and eventually she, despite being stabbed herself, does manage to tip over a can of fuel and spark it with a lighter. Of course, at this point we are shown that the killer is the handsome guy from the garage near the beginning. Waking up after surviving the explosion, the sheriff's deputy is convinced he knows who the killer is, not suspecting, of course, this guy, and shutting it down. And we close on the old the killer is still out there moment. Like I say, the film tries to combine a kind of Mean Girl style comedy with the interactions between the cheerleaders with the normal slasher fare. It's not quite strong enough to pull it off. It's amusing in patches. It will pass sort of the 18 minutes that it's on for, but it's another one that doesn't quite carry off its setup as strongly as you would like it to. Though you do have to give credit to the filmmakers. They've clearly been working with a very small budget, and they've done really well to pull off what they have done. In particular, the horror stalking sequences have been put together very well. It's just a shame that the horror and comedy sides of it don't quite mesh together. Anyway, that was Spirit Camp. We'll be back again soon for some more Prime Cutz, so like and subscribe, and I'll speak to you again soon.